Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 2, part 2 of Cookiecast. This week I sat down with Paul Williams, and this is part 2 of that conversation. In this part we talk about movies, NFL, diet and exercise. Pretty sure there's some wrestling in there for you wrestling fans. So tune in, sit down, and listen to episode 2, part 2 of Cookiecast. So I'm going to give you an option.
Yes.
Because normally I would go down the route of asking you what the last film you watched was. And then I'd get you to flip to giving me like a top 3 movie kind of thing. But I know you're not a massive movie guy.
I'm not, but I have been to the cinema.
But
within the last
8 years.
2 weeks, possibly 3 weeks.
I am literally in shock right now.
I think I told you about it at work, actually. Because I'd been on a Sunday evening, and the last film I've seen was not a film I was particularly bothered about seeing, but someone suggested it, and I was like, yeah, go on then. Game Night.
Now then. I've seen so many trailers for this. The same trailer so many times. I think it's on something that I keep seeing the trailer for. And it's one of those, I like Jason Bateman. I don't know if he's maybe been a little bit typecast. Have you seen Ozark?
No, but again, it's something that I need to put into my list on Netflix.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
Is it not that good? Oh, my sister-in-law said it was pretty good.
Like Leanne said, oh, my dad told us we have to watch this programme. And I went, okay. And I was watching it, and I felt exactly the same when the last episode finished that I did watching the first episode. All I could think was, where is this programme going? And a lot of the stuff in it, I was like, I don't... And me and Leanne have sort of tried to work out how the money laundering works. And I had a conversation with my mate Pete, and he was like, oh, it's simple. And he started explaining it, and I was like, right. And then we got onto a different subject. And at this point in time, I don't understand how... Oh, spoiler alert, by the way. It's a programme about money laundering. I don't understand how the money laundering works. So it's very difficult for me to follow along. As by this point you might have gathered, I am not the smartest man. So, Ozark, watch it, see what you think. Everybody loves it. I'm not everybody, unfortunately. So, Jason Bateman.
Yeah, I was going to say that's kind of what it boils down to, because I like Bateman. Because obviously we've discussed before, again, Arrested Development. One of the greatest TV shows ever. Apart from Series 4, but we'll just ignore that.
Series...
Oh, that one that doesn't exist.
No, don't know.
Is that
the same as Die Hard?
I was just about to say
that doesn't exist either.
It falls in the same category.
Yeah, let's not. Although, here's something for you. Me and Leanne watched This Is the End last night.
I saw that downstairs, yeah.
Michael Cera in that film is just fucking brilliant.
Yes. I watched it on a plane.
Who wants a sippy?
I watched it on a plane and had to almost stop at one point because I was kind of thinking I might start laughing out loud for real.
Yeah. I watched the I love watching the bloopers on stuff, especially funny films, and I do wonder how some films like that get made when you've got that many comedy actors in one place at one time, and they just keep showing the same bit over because one of them will start laughing. And all I could think is, A, I bet they had so much fun doing that film. B, I bet it took 8 times longer than it should have done to make because they'll have just been killing themselves.
The best thing about it is the guy that's the main character in it is probably is that guy that everyone will recognise from other films because he's been a secondary character or a character in the background in all the other films he's ever been in. And I quite like that he was the main guy in it. Yeah,
and he was the voice of the main character in How to Train Your Dragon. What? Anyway, so...
Oh dear.
Do you want to tell me about Games Night? I'll probably see it at some point.
It's very good.
Okay.
So bear in mind, I watched it knowing absolutely nothing about it.
Well, I've seen a lot of trailers for it.
So I didn't even know it was a thing.
Right.
So went into it with very low expectations, not really knowing what the hell I was going to be watching.
Always a good way to go into a movie.
And was very, very surprised as to how much I actually enjoyed it. It was very, very good.
So me and Leanne created the Trevor scale, because we called our first podcast the Trevor and Trevor podcast. I think you're one of the only people that knows what that relates to.
Well, I don't know the reason.
Oh, it's very long.
I know that.
Yeah, it's very long story. So I call her Trevor, she calls me Trevor.
Of course.
Really long story, relates to somebody I used to work with called Ben. And that's another long story. So we created the Trevor scale.
Trevor scale.
So 1 to 10, how many Trevors would you give Game Night?
Do you know what? I'd probably put it an 8.
Wow.
It was very, very good. I really enjoyed it.
There we go.
And it was brilliant at one point, because I was like, this guy just turned up halfway through. I was like, I'm sure I know that guy. Sure, I recognise that guy from somewhere.
Was it Rafi?
Is he in it? Oh my god. No, maybe he's not. I can't remember. He might be in it. I can't remember.
Oh my word.
But no. So I was watching it, and then all of a sudden I was thinking, after the film finished, see, sadly I'm one of these people who, if I go watch a film, more often than not, the second I leave the cinema, I'm straight on Wikipedia.
Okay.
I know not the most, credible source, but it gives a plot rundown and stuff like that. Yeah. So I like to look about like stuff behind the scenes and stuff like that. So waited for the credits to roll, saw the character whose name I kind of needed to look up, looked into it. I was like, yes, I knew I recognised him from somewhere. Turns out he was an ex-wrestler. I was like, I knew I'd seen him somewhere, and everyone else. I guarantee there was absolutely no one else in that cinema. Bear in mind, there was only about 12 people in that cinema at the time. Absolutely no one would have left that cinema and done exactly the same thing I did. Because
no one was that possible wrestler.
No one will even recognise the guy. They'll just think, oh, he's just some extra.
Some guy. So, like I said before, I was going to give you the option to defer what was last movie or favourite movie sort of thing, and I was going to give you the choice to do what was the last sport you wanted, because you're a sport guy rather than
I'm a bit of a sportsman. Yeah, that's generally what my stuff tends to be.
You have been referred to in the past as a sports encyclopedia by me.
Yeah.
So, do you have favourite films? Is that
there are certain films that I will go back to and watch time and time again.
Because I know you were a big fan of the first, if not both, Kingsman.
Yeah, we went to go see the second one at the cinema, and did I go see the first one at the cinema?
I think you did see it and then bought it.
Yeah, I bought it on Bluey. It is a very good film.
What did you think to the second one?
I liked it. I liked the second one. Yeah. It was quite funny watching it with my mate Gotti, because after again, spoiler alert, but the opening scene made him almost not want to stay.
Why?
Have you seen it?
It's there. It's right there.
The second one?
Yeah.
I didn't even know the second one was out.
Yeah.
Been out a few weeks. It's the bit where he's on the door of the taxi and he's just like, nah, this is ridiculous. They've gone too far with it already.
Has he seen the first one? Because the first one's a little...
I think he was just like, what is going on here?
I can safely say, spoilers, I can safely say I have never seen a film get going that quick.
It was insane.
Within 30 seconds of that film started, it's already off.
Yeah.
And I was proper I was like getting comfortable in my seat, grabbing a drink, and then all of a sudden I'm like, huh? We're off. Okay, right. I better start taking in what's happening. So, would you go, that's my favourite movie, or these are some of my favourite films?
No, I mean, my sort of top 3 films are probably very, very sort of similar to a lot of people's. Like, I'd say the film that I've probably seen the most, other than comedy films or something like that, is probably I do every now and again. I like to go back and watch The Shawshank Redemption.
Really, often rated as the best film ever made.
A good one.
And a lot of like top 100s or top 10s.
Because it didn't win any Oscars, did it? Because I think it came out. Did it come out the same year as Forrest Gump?
Yeah, I think
that sort of pipped it to a lot.
Yeah, I think that's the story that goes on with it. But yeah, I mean, there's no wonder it will always appear as number one on the list of best films ever. So, in this situation, would you like to give me your top 3 favourite sports? Don't say cricket. If you say cricket,
I do like cricket.
I will leave.
I like cricket.
And I live here.
That is true. I like cricket, but I wouldn't put it as one of my top 3.
Oh, thank God. Don't say tennis. All the same applies.
Again, I like it, but I won't put it as part of my top 3. Good. Top 3 sports, I mean, I'm going to have to put football as number 1, because it's the sport I've grown up watching, grown up playing, still play now, still watch now.
Yeah.
Do I class wrestling as a sport?
It's got whatever way you slice it. I mean, I grew up with wrestling, and then I got out of it, and then I got back in when I was. I mean, I truly believe that I experienced the best wrestling time.
The Attitude Era.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I lived through the Attitude Era, and that was the point I got back into it, and I personally think that was the best time to be in it.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's never been as good as it was then, and I mean, like...
I remember...
Now, nowhere near.
Me and my mate Ollie used to stay up to watch WrestleMania and to tape it, VHS tape it, from Sky, because we had Sky because we were at the hotel, and he was just like, "You've got Sky, can I come and take this? It's on at 2:00 in the morning and we'll have to stay up and watch the whole thing," and we're like, 11, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So I got into it, I got out of it, I got back into it a bit late, Saturday morning watching the SmackDown roundup of the week sort of thing. Whichever way you look at it, whichever way you slice it, wrestling's real, wrestling's fake, whatever you want to say. At no point do I think you can't say it's a sport. The way those guys fling themselves around that ring,
definitely.
Jumping off the tops, doing the moves they do, trying to keep it fresh, trying to keep it alive, trying to keep people interested. The stuff they do, the injuries that they sustain,
oh God, yeah.
the things that they have subjected their bodies to,
oh yeah,
far above so many other
it's got to have
sports.
It's got to have the highest mortality rate.
Oh my word!
Of any other sort of activity, sport, whatever way you want to slice it. But if you look at the sheer amount of footballers, if you look at the sheer amount of wrestlers that have died before the age of 50, it's startling. It's insane how big that number is.
Yeah.
And then you can always slice it even further if you see wrestlers that are in their 60s and in their 70s that are either in a wheelchair or have massive concussion related problems.
Yeah, one of the things that I struggle with wrestling quite a lot is that it's a sport that doesn't treat its sports people all that well.
No, definitely not.
Especially money wise. I know. I make no attempt to hide that I'm a big fan of The Rock, of Dwayne Johnson as he is now.
Mm-hmm.
Never used to be. Wasn't overly enamoured with him as a wrestler. He was obviously, he pulled a crowd.
Have you been talking to my mate Stu?
Not for a while.
Can't fucking stand him. Absolutely hates him.
And as an actor, had no time for him until I saw what is probably my favourite film, Pain and Gain, and he hands down makes that film. He is just phenomenal in that film. But yeah, I never really had a huge amount of time for him. But that changed. I don't know. So, sport-wise, let's allow wrestling to be a sport.
Yeah.
So you go in 3 or 2.
I'd probably put it football. Then if we're having wrestling, then I'd put wrestling second, and then I'd have to have American football third. Because it's the sport that after football I watch the most. I know it's only on for like 3-4 months out of the year.
I mean, it's a painful sport to follow.
I'd say 75% of the stuff that I watch on my TV is either wrestling, football, or American football.
I mean, this is the thing. You are a sports guy, which is why when I knew I was going to ask you the question, oh, what's your top favourite film? What's your least favourite film? I'm not going to go as far as to say that it's going to be wasted on you, because you could probably say these are my 3 favourite.
Well, the other one would go back to the films. I was going to say A Beautiful Mind.
A Beautiful Mind. You have thrown out some.
It's a good film.
Some strange ones. So, NFL leads us nicely into the NFL segment.
Ah, yes.
So let's talk. Me and Leanne did the movers and the shakers, the ads, the drops, the whatever you want, the draft. So there's been a lot that's happened since then, and me and Leanne did that on Tuesday. It's now Friday.
The main one that I'd seen last night was that Case Keenum is the new QB of the Broncos.
Is the number one on my list. What are you thinking about this?
I like it.
How much?
For him, because I saw on Twitter that he'd put a photo up of him signing his contract with what I'm assuming with his wife, and he'd basically done that thing where you put up 4 photos that like split, and then you can like flick through them all, and the first 3 were pictures of him signing his contract with his wife. And then the 4th picture in the bottom right hand corner was him with a John Elway 7 jersey on
and he
like
is
20 years ago.
Yeah, and he is.
And I think he grew up a Broncos fan.
Yeah, he has. I think today has sort of announced that he has always been a massive fan of the Broncos. Me and Leanne watched the first and second, the only 2 series of All or Nothing.
Ah, they've got another one of them coming out actually. It's about the Dallas Cowboys. That's supposed to be the one that's coming out for this season.
Good. So Series 1, the Cardinals, which interesting will be something that isn't actually on that list that should be. So the Cardinals one was really good. Really enjoyed that one. The second series was the Rams and
LA, or when they were at St. Louis.
No, LA. So, that series really was a bit lacklustre because of the fact that they didn't make it to the playoffs. Didn't really do anything.
That'll literally be the first season of them being back in LA.
Yeah, so it was the first series. The start of that series is them moving and how they're going to move their entire, like essentially their stadium or all of their equipment over to LA. But Case Keenum is the quarterback, and
it's weird, isn't it? Yeah, so he's about to start his 3rd season with his 3rd different team.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, the Broncos really do need to make a decision what they're doing at the quarterback position, because last season changing quarterback on a weekly basis probably isn't the right answer.
The problem they had last season was the fact that they had 3 quarterbacks, none of which were any good.
Yeah,
Simeon's barely a quarterback. Brock Osweiler is just, I don't know what the hell's going on there, and Paxton Lynch is he's too young.
And isn't it the fact that they've paid massive amounts of money for each of them?
I don't know about Osweiler, because obviously Osweiler was just he got, where was he at? Was he at the Texans, and he got traded to the Browns, even though the Browns didn't want him. I think they took him because it either gave them cap space or it gave them draft picks. It was one or the other. They took him. They didn't take him for the money. They didn't take him because they wanted him. They took him because it benefited them to do it.
Yeah, some of the trade things I'm not.
That's the thing about. That's what I don't know enough about when it comes to the NFL. There's so many things where. So to go to another quarterback trade from the last season, during the season, it was when Garoppolo went to the 49ers. And because
49 million,
something like that, but it was, the fact was that there was a lot of people that were convinced that he wasn't even going to stay there. They thought they'd taken him for a similar thing again to have as a good trade offer. So that the idea was going to be, a lot of people thought what they were going to do was they were going to trade him to, say, someone that really needed a quarterback, like a Cleveland or something like that, in return for either draft picks or salary cap space or something like that.
Yeah.
And then obviously started the last 4 games or whatever, won them all.
Won all.
Turned out he's got a massive fucking dick.
Yeah.
And he's basically now going to be their quarterback for the next 5 years.
Yeah. With Richard Sherman has gone there.
They're
not sure what's gone on there.
I think that was just he's wanted out of the Seahawks for the past couple of seasons.
Yeah.
I think
and has made no attempt to hide that fact.
Was he? I think they put up on the NFL like mobile or whatever it was the other day. That's officially the last remnants of the LOB.
LOB, yeah.
They're all.
He made reference to it when he announced he was going. It was kind of the last bit of the LOB.
It's going to be interesting next season when Seattle plays the Niners twice and Russell Wilson gets picked off in both games by Richard Sherman on more than one occasion.
Yeah, that's going to be weird.
Excuse me.
So, have you seen any of the other moves?
The other one that I'd seen was that Jordy Nelson's apparently going to the Raiders.
Is number 2 on my list. Jordy Nelson going to the Raiders. Weird.
Well, they need someone because they've let Crabtree go, haven't they?
Michael Crabtree, released by the Raiders, is number 4 on my list. I think it's weird.
I can't think who's Amari Cooper. They've got Amari Cooper, but other than that, I can't think of any more decent receivers they've got.
I think it's weird that the Packers have dropped him though.
He's getting on a bit.
He's getting on a bit.
He's been there for 10 seasons, I think, and he's 32.
Yeah,
he's injured. He's injured
Jesus
a lot.
Christ.
So say he's been there for 10 seasons. I think in the last 3 seasons he's maybe played about 6 games or something like that, or he's completed 6 games.
Yeah, I suppose. But, to me he's like a staple.
But I imagine the thing is, it was either a case of release him or they had to tag him.
Yeah.
And keep him for another 3 seasons or something like that and pay him a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
And I think the idea was that they need to save all their money to stop Aaron Rodgers going elsewhere or something. I have no idea, but haven't they taken a quarterback? Who did they take? That's going to annoy me. They've just taken a quarterback who's obviously not going to play because he's not Aaron Rodgers.
But you got to think.
But he's better than Hundley. Was it Hundley? Brett Hundley they had end of the season for him.
You've got to think though that at this point in time the Packers have to be thinking about the future, and they need to get somebody in.
Isn't that old?
But he's not going to have 5 years left, is he? They're going to need to be getting someone in.
If Brady thinks he can go to 43 or something. He's thinking he's got another 2-3 seasons after him.
Did you see that video of him down in a pint on some talk show, like a pint of beer?
Really?
And he inhaled.
Brady did?
Yeah.
I thought his body was a temple.
Mm-hmm. He inhaled this pint of beer. It was like, whoa, that is impressive, unlike your football player. I hate Brady. So we've covered Case Keenum, Jordan Nelson, and Michael Crabtree. I have on my list of things that I picked up over the last couple of days. I mean, it's some real move fest at the moment. Kirk Cousins.
He's gone to Minnesota, hasn't he?
And has become the highest paid NFL player in history.
Oh, that's all right then. Well, there was something that absolutely disgusted me from a couple of years ago, was that Joe Flacco was the highest paid player in the league. That made me not want to watch American football again. Because Joe Flacco is possibly the worst quarterback I've ever seen play.
You're not a huge Flacco fan.
He's absolutely dreadful. To say that guy's a Super Bowl MVP,
if you want,
makes me sick.
I'm just pop my Flacco jersey on if you like.
Sick.
And last on the list, what are your thoughts around the Honey Badger?
Well, this is the thing. I don't know enough about defence to sort of make a comment on him, but all the stuff that's going around on Twitter and stuff seems to think that whatever team he lands on will instantly make their defence better.
Yeah. I like I said to you before, we watched the first series of All or Nothing, and I find it very interesting that the Cardinals have parted ways with him because they fucking loved him.
Well,
they were all ready to have his babies.
I wouldn't be surprised if if they've got enough cap space to take him, if he ends up going to Jacksonville, because obviously Calais Campbell's already there, and I'm pretty sure those two were quite good mates when they were both at the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So I don't know if, what does he play, free safety? That's the thing. I don't know enough about him, so I don't know if the Jags I don't know if they need another safety or not. But
who knows?
Yeah. The thing that surprised me the most is the moves that the Browns are putting together.
Me and Leanne did an extensive thing about the Browns, and I don't. You know where you see one move and you go, it's the Browns. That's the end of that person's career, and then you see another move and you go, okay, so the Browns got two good players. And then you see another move and another move. Over the space of 2 days, the Browns got like 4 good players. Yeah. And me and Leon started going, is this the season that the Browns don't go 0-16?
So, also as well, the thing you have to keep in consideration with the Browns is the fact that they've got the first pick.
Yeah.
And the 4th pick of the upcoming draft.
What are the chances that they're going to trade away their first pick?
Well, it depends, because apparently the best player that's available is a guy called Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Who's supposed to be a bit like he's like a Zeke type.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of
destroyer running back and stuff like that. So basically it's a case of they either take him at 1 and trade away their 4th, or they trade with someone who really desperately needs a running back. Because, I mean, to be fair, for as bad as they were last season, running back is probably a position they don't need to strengthen that much, because they've got Duke Johnson and Isaiah Crowell, I think, and they're not terrible running backs. Obviously, they're probably not as good as this guy, but
I saw quite a lot of his combine stuff, and it was like,
I imagine that the Browns just need to improve on defense just so much. So it depends whether they if they fancy better defensive players that are further down the draft and they think they can get more value out of it, it might be worth trading down. Take like a sort of a 16th pick or something like that. Get some cap space, or get more picks later in the draft or in future years' drafts. And then they'll just absolutely nail it.
Yeah.
Do like what the Jags did. Be shit for 4, 5, 6, 10 seasons or whatever. absolutely make an insanely good defence. Add a ridiculous running back. I mean, you still got a quarterback who doesn't really know what to throw when he's in his hand.
Yeah.
But
they did well last season. You can't give them that.
If you think about it, they were 40 seconds or something away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then Brady just, did Brady things.
So, here's a subject that it's not going to be everyone's favourite subject. Me and Len were talking about it on the last one, but some might consider a touchy subject. I personally work on the principle that talking about it makes it easier to do. So let's talk diets and what goes hand in hand with diets, exercise. So, would you yourself consider that you are, at this moment in time, partaking in any form of diet?
No.
Okay. For any reason other than you're not?
Laziness.
Okay. As far as exercise is concerned, you're an avid footballer?
I play once a week, and as you are aware, because you go to the same place, I am a member of the gym, but I have not been since the 24th of Feb. So we're almost closing in on a month that I've not been to the gym. And that is pretty much unacceptable.
So, exercise-wise, when you're in the gym, what are you rocking? You said earlier about you love a bit of the cross-training.
So nice standard format. So it's normally in, change, obviously. Mm-hmm. Straight on the cross trainer.
Yep.
40 to 45 minutes on that.
So what do you cover distance-wise?
5k.
I tell you something. I've never been a cross trainer kind of guy. I get on the treadmill for my warm up, and I do I think I'm about 9k on the bike at the back end at the end of my workout. Mm-hmm. That's how I finish my workout. The cross trainer I was never bothered by. And then at points I've had to go on because all the treadmills are in use or all the bikes are in use, whatever. Those things are freaking difficult, man.
Yeah, the one there, it's hard to get going.
Yeah.
But once I'm on it, it's just inertia and stuff like that, and you just get used to running it.
The coordination. I tried to wipe my brow with my towel at one point and nearly fell off the freaking thing.
Yeah, I've dropped a towel several times and I've tried to sort of catch it on the rebound and it has not worked.
So, what are you going to do? You think you're going to just...
I need to get back into it, so I'm thinking starting next week I'll try and hit it, 4 or 5 times next week, if possible.
So, you do your elliptical, as the Americans would call it.
Do that as my cardio.
Okay.
Because I feel that
cardio.
You need your cardio.
Yeah, you got to get your cardio.
Especially if, as personally, I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight, so that's where I'm going to get the majority of my lost weight is going to be from cardio.
Yeah.
And then it's just, I tend to try and use the machines rather than the free weights for weights, but I should probably start using the free weights more because that'll both do toning or muscle building and form as well.
Yeah, there's the additional control required to do the free weights. The machine does X amount for you. I watched a video the other day that said you should never use any machines, you should always use free weights, but I think in this world we live in, free weights you can only do so much. Machines you can do a lot more. You think about a cable machine and how many muscle groupings you could work purely with a cable machine. Yeah. So, I mean, do you go, I'm going to work chest and back, I'm going to do some biceps, or do you go, I'm going to go and lift this weight?
No, it's just a case, normally it's a case of I'll go and do as many different lifts as I can, or I can be bothered to do.
Right.
In the sort of time that I feel that I've got left.
And are you going... Last time I was in here, I was lifting this, so this time I'm going to lift more.
That's what I try to do, but I think obviously given the fact that I've not been for about a month, I'll have to sort of drop it down a bit and then sort of start again. So yeah, I mean, last time I was there, I think I was up to about 34. No, hang on. So for example, on the bench press.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much the bar is.
I think the bar's usually about 5.
5, that sounds about right, but I'm pretty sure I get up to about almost 20 on each side, so that's what, 45?
So that's more than I do.
And that was normally what I'd do is I'd try and do 3 sets of 10. Yeah. But that one was, when I was putting 20 on, it was a case of I'd maybe get to about 7 and I'd feel my arms start to sort of, not buckle, but they were starting to strain a little bit, and I was thinking if I could probably do 10, but I'd maybe push something out.
Yeah, and it is always that thing, you never want to injure yourself because an injury is going to do so much worse for you.
And it'll be something like it wouldn't be a break or a sprain or anything like that, it'd be a tear.
A tear is the worst thing you can possibly have. Going back to the NFL, the number of times you hear the phrase torn ACL out for the season, and that's week 3 of a 16-week season. So, the last thing you want is a tear. I'm starting my new workout regime. Jess has done me a regime. Starting the new one on Monday. Feel free to jump in on that if you want. She's going to take me through all the exercises for each day. It looks interesting. I'm dropping sets. I'm doing 2 sets of 12 rather than 3 sets of 12.
Makes sense.
Well,
Tom's always said, this is going back to our large friend again. Apparently, for building up, you're probably better off to do as many reps as you can, but with a heavier weight.
Heavy weight, yeah.
So say if you're doing 3 sets of 12 with an 8-pound dumbbell or an 8-kilogram dumbbell, I can't remember what they are in the gym.
The big keys.
So if you're regularly doing 3 sets of 12 with an 8, if you were to just do 3 sets of 6, but with a 14,
yeah,
you'd be probably doing better.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to have to get into the mentality of this course, or I'm already panicking going 2 sets of 12, but then I'm missing a set. But it's this 70% your 1 rep max. So I'll probably actually be going up in weight.
Yeah.
Which again is one of those that it'll be weird for me going, fucking hell, this is heavy, but I only have to lift it 24 times.
Yeah.
Rather than going, I can lift this, but I've got to lift it 36 times. So there'll be that. I think I'm just going to have to get used to it. And some of the stuff that she's written on this thing for me, I've looked at, and I said to her, I was like, I don't understand what half of this means. And she was like, I didn't think you would, but I'll take you through it. So I asked Leanne this question, and I keep going, is this a great conversation piece, or is it something that's a 3-line answer sort of thing? Leanne's my go-to person for my horrific dyslexia. I don't know if you can see on my list here that dyslexia is spelt wrong.
Is it with a Y?
Dyslexia's got a Y in it. Dyslexia's got a Y in it. So I sometimes do it on purpose, just for the sheer shits and giggles, because I know that's spelt wrong.
Right.
So, but you have been a person that I have
used in the past.
Where I will often say to you, how do you spell this? And you now know that I can't spell for shit. So there's times where
you've got loads better.
I don't have to actually ask you to spell stuff. You'll just spell things for me. So I said to Leanne, what is it like dealing with someone who is as dyslexic as I am? Is the first thought that goes through your head, Jesus Christ, this guy is freaking dumb?
No, because I'd have probably thought that had you not told me you were dyslexic. Because I don't know why, I think it's just a case of I just assume that people know how to spell words. Just the only reason I say that is because my dad's not like a slave driver or a real hard ass or anything like that. But since we were kids, we've always had sort of drummed into us how to spell stuff. Really, really sort of strange to say that, like, but he's always been really sort of high on his like spelling of words. So I've kind of always known how to spell stuff. So when people don't know how to spell it, it always seems a bit odd to me, as stupid as that sounds. But because I know you're dyslexic, it's never sort of been an issue for me, because I know that you're not doing it because you're thick. You're doing it because you can't process the words like I would.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's not an issue, because I know that you're not doing it because you just can't be asked to find out what the word is.
I was trying to explain it to a mate the other day. My mate's lent me this book. It's an interesting book, but it's got a lot that goes with it. So it's a book that was originally published in 1724, when back in the days when spelling was optional, and he lent it to me going, by the way, this is going to really fuck with your dyslexia, because they don't spell the words the same, and it's written as it sounds and all this. And I was like, oh my God. And part of me wondered at the time whether that might actually help.
Potentially, yeah. So
I have gone back to him to tell him that I've started reading this book, and I've said to him that the introduction to this book is quite lengthy. They use some big words to describe stuff. So if I'm reading a sentence, it's almost like I know it's coming, like I'm bearing down on a big word. I get to a big word and I have to like slowly piece that big word together and sound it out in my head, and then push it all back together and then try and read it and try and work out what that says. If you're reading a sentence that's got 3 big words in it, it can take so many minutes to get through that one sentence. And sometimes you're not always grasping, because you're not 100% sure what that word actually is, what it means. So for that, and like reading that introduction of that book took me ages. It took me days to read this introduction. To be fair, it was quite long. But it's something only recently have I actually started wondering about what it's like for other people to deal with me going, how do you spell really easy word for you? How do you spell this? I send stuff to Leanne so that she can put the grammar into things, commas and full stops and capital letters and the correct spelling of certain words and stuff. But it's just something that recently it's sort of struck me as, what is it like for other people dealing with me being the way I am? I remember coming to you and going, hey, I'm playing this game and it's the Cody Cross, and you were like, really? You're playing this game with your dyslexia? And I was like, yeah, I am. How do I spell this? And you were like, oh, here we go. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether it's I don't know whether it's a big talking point or not. I should have looked at how many minutes it took us to talk about it.
Yeah, to me it wasn't. It's never been a massive thing. Like I say, I think because I know the situation, in that if it was a case of you just kept sort of coming to me saying that, oh, how would you spell this? How would you spell this? How would you spell this? Blah blah blah. But I didn't know you were dyslexic. I'd maybe just think you were being lazy.
There is an aspect that some people think that dyslexia is the lazy man's condition.
Also, because now you might not remember this, but when we first started working together, and we had that team where we used to do the daily quiz questions.
Yeah.
You, when it came time to put your question on the board, you used to write it out, but you would have capital letters in the middle of your words.
I do love a capital.
Or just any in no particular order.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe how it sort of came about, that you were dyslexic. Then since then, you don't do it anymore, I've noticed.
You and I... Oh, I'm learning all the time. I've only recently learned how to use commas.
Interesting.
I am like a child who's learning to read and write and spell at the age of 37 and a bit. You and I both had a manager that I regularly had to say, partially jokingly, partially not jokingly, do I need to contact HR and have a conversation about the fact that you take the piss out of me as my manager for being stupid because of my dyslexia? Because it was this thing that we had this manager that found it incredibly funny to make fun of the fact that I was dyslexic. And I was like, I don't think you can do it. And I would always do have you done your diversity in the workplace CBT this year? Because I don't know if you're falling into that, It always felt a bit weird, but I find that people are generally quite understanding. Me and Lan had a conversation the other day where I have to submit forms and things written to places where I don't really want them to go, my word, this guy's stupid. And she said that you can actually add a thing to it that says, please forgive any spelling mistakes, please forgive any lack of grammar. I am dyslexic and I do struggle with dyslexia.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I suppose if you're just making people aware of the situation, and they can't really say much about it, personally. But, yeah.
So, if you were to go on Mastermind, I don't think they do Mastermind anymore. Do they?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Big time. It's just not the same guy. It's, I can't remember the guy's name.
Magnus Magnuson?
No, he's dead. R.I.P. Rips. Up there with Stephen Hawking now.
Oh, Stephen Hawking, man.
I didn't think he was... Oh, no, sorry. What was I going to say to someone the other day? I thought he was older than 70-something.
Yes.
And then the person I was having the conversation with was on the bus, and they turned to me and said, oh, really? Because I would have said the opposite. I didn't think he was as old as that.
I would have gone with your way. I would have thought he was maybe a little older than that. I thought 80s.
Yeah.
But you got to give him,
well, he got you.
Big bucket of win, as the man Kevin Smith would say.
Big time.
He's done so much for the scientific community.
Big time,
So, if you were asked what your specialist subject would be, have we covered it at this point in time by saying that your specialist subject could be wrestling, or would you say that it's football?
If you were to ask...
Oh, I'm asking.
If you were to ask some of my friends, they would probably say my specialist subject. This is the joke they always make. Specialist subject they always used to say it would probably be lower league football teams' shirt sponsors from 1995 or something as niche as that.
You see, I would go with wrestlers who have died and which year.
I tell you something, if you gave me that option, I'd have a bloody good go at it.
You see, this is why I say that you have in the past, and admittedly by me, been referred to as an encyclopedia of. It's probably an encyclopedia of sport at this point in time.
The problem is that it's not even an encyclopedia of sport. It's an encyclopedia of absolute fucking nonsense.
But everybody has that. Everybody has that. I really love this, and I can tell you a shit ton about it.
But that's the problem.
Because
I've got it, but I've got it about so many different things.
Yeah, you do generally span a large...
It's insane. And my mum has always said the same thing. She's always said, why can you and your dad and your brother not be, this passionate about
science,
physics,
and
or
be really good at science,
or
Stock
mathematics,
markets.
or something like, you could make a career
Make
out
us some
of.
money, yeah.
So, because the prime example would be that me, my dad and my brother, we've all grown up. Well, I say we're all grown up. Well, obviously not my dad, because he was, our dad. But me and my brother have grown up watching TV programs like Fawlty Towers.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, because it's something that my dad watched when he was younger, and then taped again on VHS.
The old VHS.
And then played back to me and my brother several times over. So we can pretty much quote every episode, like line for line. And whenever it comes on the TV, we'll watch it together and stuff like that, and we'll basically just quote it verbatim. And if my mum sat there, she just generally, oh God, not this again.
Women don't get it.
No.
That's what I've realised over all these years. Women don't get it. They really don't.
But specialist subjects, I mean, I think I'd have to say wrestling, just because there's well, it's either wrestling or football. But I mean, at a pinch, I'd probably say wrestling, because loads of people in the world know loads of stuff about football, whereas I don't think there's that many people that know that much about wrestling, because it's a bit of a niche one, isn't it, really? Because I think wrestling is one of those things that you either liked as a kid, and then stopped liking it because you realised you were too old to like wrestling anymore.
Wrestling is the sport a little bit like Father Christmas.
Yeah,
it is the probably can't. I reached an age where I still wanted to believe, and I think that works for both Father Christmas and wrestling.
Yeah, sadly so.
So let's call it a tie between football and wrestling. I mean, I've seen you sit down at some kind of quiz thing.
Oh God, yeah.
And just I think the one that always gets me is the geography ones. When I see you naming countries on a map that's got no names on it.
The only reason I can do stuff like that is because very much a creature of habit. So normally what happens is I get home from work, and it'll either be Pointless is on TV or The Chase is on TV. So I'll sit and I'll watch those, and I'll either just retain the knowledge from watching it, or I've known it from seeing it before, or you'll know this, we do quite a lot of quizzes and stuff at work occasionally, so that's obviously helped in the past as well. Yeah. So yeah, I tend to retain a lot of knowledge, but about pointless things.
I think we're all like that. I was talking to somebody the other day about the fact that one of the only facts I know about bananas is that the banana trees walk. When they plant banana trees, they plant a row, leave a row, plant a row, leave a row, because banana trees walk, and people always go, and it's the roots, the way the roots are. The roots sort of do it's like they're walking, and they move across, and they have to sort of plant them in strange ways. And whenever I tell people that, I second guess that fact because it's so unbelievable. And I know
it does sound insane. I
have Googled it on so many occasions and gone, no, I'm right. They do walk. They do fucking walk. But yeah, I think useless information. We're all guilty of carrying emotional baggage. We carry our useless information around with us. Me and Leanne have been doing this. I'm trying to add a couple of things to the end of our podcast, like a recurring thing. So anybody that comes on, I'm going to ask them to do two things. So, firstly, if you were doing a weekly podcast that for some unknown reason became wildly successful and you were approached by somebody who wanted you to advertise, so they wanted to sponsor the podcast and they wanted you to advertise their product, and you would only advertise their product if you advocated their product, what product would it be?
So, in America, there is a chain of restaurants called Buffalo Wild Wings.
Okay.
Their advertising slogan is beers, wings, sports.
Perfect.
What more does a growing boy need? I mean, obviously not yourself, because, you know, well, beers and sports you'd be alright with, but the wings, probably not so much.
And I don't really drink at the moment.
Well, yeah, that's it.
So we can do some sport. So you want...
I would love it.
You want Buffalo Wild Wings?
Well, I just want Buffalo Wild Wings over here, for starters.
I was going to say, when you said in America, I was like, this is going to have to be a far-reaching podcast.
But bear in mind, you know, all bands in the UK, their main idea is to crack America.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't it be for podcasts?
Yeah. True. The creature that lives in the roof is trying to escape, or it's just very windy outside.
Or rainy.
Okay, so...
It is England after all.
I like to finish on a high note, and we are coming to the end. So, I'll tell you what I was doing with Leanne and then see if you could add anything to it. I was trying to convince Leanne that she should learn and deliver her impression of the week. So she should get an impression and learn it. But although we were doing it a bit on the fly and it wasn't an impression, I think in the end she ended up doing an accent, and I thought it was going to be really funny because I thought she was going to do it like she tried to do it previously. And then she ended up doing it really well. So she gave us a Dublin accent.
Nice.
And I either said at the time on the podcast that we did or afterwards, it'll be really great when we get Paul on because Paul's really good at accents. I don't know if I've ever seen you do any impressions as such. Dealer's choice on this one. Do you want to throw us out an accent? You've already done the fantastic Middlesbrough accent for us. So I could let you off with that one. You could just recycle your Middlesbrough accent for us.
Nah, that was a bit dull.
I do enjoy your Scottish. I do enjoy your Scottish. Do you do any impressions? You got any impressions?
Well, I was thinking about that earlier.
Kermit the Frog.
When I saw the... I was told I always used to do quite a good Barney. Barney the dinosaur.
Barney the dinosaur. He's the guy who was in the suit. I heard this on another podcast, so I'm stealing other people's information here. But the guy in the suit is doing some kind of sex clinic where he charges people horrific amounts of money to do like some 3-hour sex clinic thing with them. I think it's just them paying him for sex at the end of the day. I'm not sure if that's actually true. Don't ever quote me on anything I say. I only research 18% of my facts. Do you want to do your Barney impression?
I mean, I can give it a go. It's been a while.
Do you need to mentally prepare for that?
Just need to clear the old throat and just have the last of
this. The last of the drink.
The last of this.
Do you need a lozenge?
The last of this delicious mango water that can be purchased at Asda superstores nationwide for
Asda's mango and passion fruit water. That's a great segue into our unofficial sponsor.
It's so refreshing.
Asda, call me. Go on then, give us your Barney.
Hi kids! I'm Barney!
It was one of those I was like, I'm not sure I know what Barney sounds like these days. I haven't heard Barney in ages, but no, I
bet it doesn't even sound like that anymore. It's probably something like, hey kids, it's me, Barney.
What up, Barney?
What up, dog?
It's
like the Simpsons, like yo, we can eat protein now. Oh God. But yeah, that was the one that I used to.
That's a good Barney impression. Do you want to give us an accent before we go?
I mean, I can if you want.
Give us some Scottish. Come on.
All right, there, wee sacks. What you doing there, wee boy? Stephen, come here, please. Stephen. No. We've got someone on the phone for you, Stephen. Yeah, that's all just born out of again. I've mentioned him earlier on, but Stephen, my friend who sadly no longer lives in the UK. He's moved to Spain.
I was just about to say I do think that anybody who gets more than 3 mentions on a single podcast has to then be a guest on subsequent podcasts.
I was going to say what I'll do is I'll get him to Skype in.
Get him to Skype in.
I'll get him to Skype in, and his specialist subject is betting and all of its foibles and stuff like that because he works for
Sky Bet, doesn't he?
No, he works for William Hill.
Really?
Yes, in Gibraltar.
Good lad.
Well, yeah, lives in Spain, and it was he is Scottish, but not to sound it, because he lived in York ever since he was like 4 or something like that. But his parents very highly Scottish, and one of our group of friends, one of the favourite sayings of all time was, "Stephen, your tea's ready." So much so that one of my friends, Lauren, went round to his house once and knocked on his door to get him. Steve's mum opened the door. I was like, "Oh, hi, oh, you here for Stephen?" So she went, "Stephen!" Just called up the stairs, and Lauren, under her breath, just turned away and went, Your tea's ready." and Steve's mum heard her do that, and then went, "Your tea's ready." Up the phone, and Steve came downstairs. What are you doing? I'm off out for tea. What are you talking about? But yeah, that was a favourite of ours.
When I was talking to Leanne in preparation, that I did tell her that I was going to try and get her to do an impression, and we, like, a couple of weeks before we ever got anywhere near doing the podcast, when we were like brainstorming ideas, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to get you to do an impression," and I was trying to say to her that there are certain words that lean into certain accents.
Right.
So I believe that the word Dublin is purposely designed for the Irish accent, because you are, by the time you finish that word, you're speaking in an Irish accent. Dublin. And the for me, the Scottish word is
Iron Brew.
Pal.
Alright there, pal.
Pal has got to be the most Scottish word. And again, by the time you finish saying pal, you're already there. Yeah, but I mean,
wee boy.
We say we, don't we? The Yorkshire people.
No, that's just all that. And nah, then. You're right, mate.
But yeah, Leanne's going to very quickly run out of accents, so she's going to have to start doing impressions. I've been trying to teach her the Stallone. Stallone's just a lot of.
Sorry, pretty loud. Just.
I tried to get her to understand that Schwarzenegger's a lot of.
Don't you have to sort of like to just be sly? Don't you have to basically just like talk into your own chin?
It's just. John Lithgow. I realised listening to a lot of Harmontown that Dan Harmon pointed out that the perfect way to do a John Lithgow impression is just make an O with your mouth. John Lithgow. Hi, I'm John Lithgow. And it was just this, and it is, you just make an O shape with your mouth, and straight away you become John Lithgow. So yeah, she's going to run out of a lot of accents, because she's only got 2 options, and she's already done one of them, so it's very soon going to be the impression of the week. So you've given us your impression of the week. Unfortunately, if you are ever invited back to the podcast, you are going to have to bring with you another impression.
Well, I thought I had a good Peter Griffin at one point, so I'll have to work. I have to work on my Peter Griffin for next time. That might have been more though, because my mates used to call me and say that I used to look like Peter Griffin.
You had a reasonable Stewie, from what I remember.
Quite a
Brian.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I haven't done it for a long time.
As that is everything on the list of the podcast, we'll probably wrap it up there.
Marvellous.
So that's that for this session of the podcast.
Lovely. Well, thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming.
Cheers.
Bye. So there we go. Episode 2, Part 2 of Cookiecast finished. What do you think, guys? That was a good conversation with Paul. Give us a shout. Hit us up on Facebook, on our Cookiecast page. Give us a shout on Twitter, at CookieCastPod. And if you want to tell us what you're thinking of the podcast so far, give us a shout on our email. That's cookiecast.pod@gmail.com. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear more of, and what you want to hear less of. Tune in next week because we've got another podcast for you. And that one's going to be a very special one. So I'll see you next week. Bye.